Out-of-work angels, for this collection, first responsibility of any artist, you feel, is to do something new and relevant to the times that you live in. When you're thinking of new ideas and you don't want to repeat things that have been done in the past, when ideas come through, they've got to come through pretty naturally. That's how the best ideas come through. Gail, my wife, has a great expression for this, and that is nothing before its time. And that always rings true. It's a game of patience. And that's exactly what happened after about 1.5 years when we were mulling ideas over for this show. We came across this article on this Irish writer, a woman from Dublin called Lorna Byrne, who's written many books on angels. Very movingly, she says that everybody is surrounded by groups, not one guardian angel or one guide, huddles of angels, vying for your attention, desperately trying to help you, but they're reliant on human beings to ask for help in the first place. And without that, in her words, they are unemployed. And that was it, unemployed angels. Suddenly, out of nowhere, having played this waiting game for the angel collection, we had our idea. Out-of-work angels, unemployed, however you want to put it. So then we thought of what comes out of that. Well, it opens up all sorts of wonderful ideas. If they're redundant and they're unemployed, out of work, and they're reliant on human beings for their prayer, basically it becomes a question of faith. So that sets the stage. That is a springboard. It's about faith, and that having huge implications in heaven, and those implications and waves affecting earth as well. So there's some fallout on earth. So you ask yourself interesting questions about how does this affect angels physically? If they lose their divine power, do they lose their ability to fly? And on their descent to earth, do they fall prey to human vice, temptation, sin? Well, for the sake of this collection, yes, they do. Ultimately, I think this display is about judgment, whether you find your God at the bottom of a whiskey bottle, at the church, through Buddhism, whatever your faith is, there is something very important about searching for something that is outside of yourself, something you have to hold on to that takes you with comfort and strength through times of terrible adversity. And it's not for us to judge how you do that. My paintings explore the possibility of faith and its many interpretations. And I hope people find this engaging and they can relate to these characters, that they are not intimidating biblical creatures who are there to judge you. They are us, they are reflections of us. Just at the beginning of the collection, this was the second painting I did. And the reason this was only the second one in and this big is I really wanted to just really try something on a different scale. The whole focus of this piece, from my mind, and it's open to interpretation obviously, was the face. To me, it echoed all the old religious paintings around the Baroque times. I think of Raphael, I think of Michelangelo, the Madonna, that lovely faraway look in the eyes, and that's something that I really wanted to capture, but for very, very different reasons. She has that faraway look in her eyes because she's slightly the worse for wear with this bottle of vodka in her hand. Yet, what I also wanted to portray was something that had dignity. She's not lost, she's down, but she's not out, and that's the important thing about this piece. And the whole scale of it, for me, was a very rewarding thing to do, because on a technical side, you have her face, you have the eyes, the subtlety of the eyes, but you have these huge, great wings, which actually enjoy, but it's very good fun to do, great splodges of paint. The blouse, totally different texture, the delicacy of the hands and this big chunky, the big chunky brush strokes of this denim skirt. So technically it was a real joy to do. And as my second painting in, I think, paved the way for the rest of the collection. One of the other paintings that I think takes the collection in a different direction, adds depth to it, is this, Old Faithful. For me, the title says everything. Old Faithful is this lovely character here, this Rottweiler. And to me, said something about homelessness. And that's essentially where a lot of these angels find themselves, as homeless. There's also something very special about a relationship. If you've met these people on the street, very often their dogs are off leash, very well behaved. They're not strange, they're not defensive when people come and approach them and want to talk to them. Very often they're better behaved than you might see a little chihuahua walking up King's Road in Chelsea, to be quite honest. So I've got a lot of time for these characters. But I really love the idea of an angel, like a guardian angel, having her own guardian angel, which is this dog. So she's safe. And even though she's getting through this bottle of your finest malt, so those are just the details. There's no vulnerability here, and that's what I wanted to portray. There's a sense in her challenging and rebellious stare that she's to be approached with caution. She is someone that you approach with respect, and she can take care of herself, and she's got someone else to take care of her as well. I'll show you this one as well. This is one of those paintings which I find incredibly rewarding because I didn't do any mapping out. There was no sketching, nothing going on with it at all. It just happened. It had its own momentum. I started off with this lovely little head, neck and shoulders here, which is Gail, my wife. And I'm mentioning her as one of those surprises about faith in the future and the unknown, which is what the collection is about. This is her idea. Gail said to me, it came out of a complete surprise. She said to me, have you ever thought about doing a painting about immigration? Especially with all the fuss and the furore in the media about people flooding over, taking people's jobs. It seemed to me completely relevant. So I did that. We were initially going to have like a world border security, but that seemed perhaps a little bit too literal. So it's nice that they just go off into infinity. There's movement there, and you can interpret where they're going. That's up to the viewer. But as I started doing it, it wasn't planned. I started with her, and I did him, and suddenly it became about couples, and I started with her. This is one of Gail's cousins. Then him. So it moves the eye along the entire painting like this. It sort of does this with those wings, the black wings punctuating that little horizon line, and it does this curve like a big C, and takes you to this character here. Now this to me is really open to interpretation. You could think of him as a really pesky queue barger, like somebody who's just jumping in. For my own sentiments, I thought it was really nice to imagine him as a saviour of all these angels. Throughout the whole collection, they've got lost in their descent to earth. They don't know where they're going. They're mooching about, they have no direction, they've lost their purpose. But this character suddenly ascends, and he notices him. And he's there to be the beacon of light, to show, I can take you out of this situation. You can return back to your original state, which is one of purity, essence. And that's the light at the end of the tunnel, which is, I think, he offers. And to me, it was a very important sentiment to include in the collection. Optimism, hope, which is ultimately what we're looking for. No matter what we've gone through, he's going to show them the way.